Om Namo Narayana and welcome back. We are in chapter 21, instructions by Maharaja Prthu, starting with verse 21, a big speech that he is giving to his folks right at an assembly and an important sacrifice. And before I go forth, we see here my fluffy little cat Fiona, one of two cats I have, just sitting there. Well, we'll see if she stays there. So here we go. King Prthu said, O gentle members of the assembly, may all good fortune be upon you. May all you great souls who have come to attend this meeting kindly hear my prayer attentively. A person who is actually inquisitive must present his decision before an assembly of noble souls. By the grace of the Supreme Lord, I have been appointed the king of this planet, and I carry the scepter to rule the citizens, protect them from all danger, and give them employment according to their respective positions in the social order established by Vedic instruction. I think that upon the execution of my duties as king, I shall be able to achieve the desirable objectives described by experts in Vedic knowledge. This destination is certainly achieved by the pleasure of the Lord, who is the seer of all destiny. Any king who does not teach his citizens about their respective duties in terms of varna and ashrama, but who simply extracts tolls and taxes from them, is liable to suffer for the impious activities which have been performed by the citizens. In addition to such degradation, the king also loses his fortune. Therefore, my dear citizens, for the welfare of your king after his death, you should execute your duties properly in terms of your positions of varna and ashrama, and should always think of the Lord within your hearts. By doing so, you will protect your own interests, and you will bestow mercy upon your king for his welfare after death. I request all the pure-hearted demigods, forefathers, and saintly persons to support my proposal, for after death the result of an action is equally shared by its doer, its director, and its supporter. My dear respectable ladies and gentlemen, according to the authoritative statements of Shastra, there must be a supreme authority who is able to award the respective benefits of our present activities. Otherwise, why should there be persons who are unusually beautiful and powerful both in this life and in the life after death? This is confirmed not only by the evidence of the Vedas, but also by the personal behavior of great personalities like Manu, Uttanapada, Dhruva, Priyavrata, and my grandfather Angna, as well as by many other great personalities and ordinary living entities, exemplified by Maharaja Prahlada and Bali, all of whom are theists, believing in the existence of the Lord who carries a club. Although abominable persons like my father, King Vena, the grandson of death personified, are bewildered on the path of religion, all the great personalities like those mentioned agree that in this world the only bestower of the benedictions of religion, economic development, sense gratification, liberation, or elevation to the heavenly planets is the Lord. By inclination to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, suffering humanity can immediately cleanse the dirt which has accumulated in their minds during innumerable births. Like the Ganges water, which emanates from the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord, such a process immediately cleanses the mind, and thus spiritual or Krishna consciousness gradually increases. When a devotee takes shelter at the feet of the Lord, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of threefold miseries. Engaging your minds, your words, your bodies, and the results of your occupational duties, and being always open-minded, you should all render devotional service to the Lord. According to your abilities and occupations in which you are situated, you should engage your service at the lotus feet of the Lord with full confidence and without reservation. Then you will surely be successful in achieving the final objective in your lives. The Lord is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul without material variety, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different types of sacrifice performed with various material elements and rituals and mantras, and offered to the demigods under different names according to the interests of the performers. The Lord is all-pervading, but he is also manifest in different types of bodies, which arise from a combination of material nature, time, desires, and occupational duties. Thus, different types of consciousness develop, just as fire, which is always basically the same, blazes in different ways according to the shape and dimensions of firewood. The Lord is the master and enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices, and he is the supreme spiritual master as well. All of you citizens on the surface of the globe who have a relationship with me and are worshipping him by dint of your occupational duties are bestowing your mercy upon me. Therefore, my citizens, I thank you. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are personally glorified by their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual aspects, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibit its material prowess before these two communities and should avoid offending them. The Lord, the ancient, eternal Godhead, who is foremost amongst all great personalities, obtained the opulence of his staunch reputation, which purifies the entire universe, by worshipping the lotus feet of those Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. The Lord, who is everlastingly independent, who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage, without regular reservation, in the service of the descendants of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for he is always dear to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and they are always dear to him. By regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart, and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods, for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. Although the Lord, Ananta, eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees, for then he does not leave the association of devotees. In Brahminical culture, a Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained because the injunctions of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, and mediation, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is illuminated, just as one's face is fully reflected in a clear mirror. O respectable personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you that I may perpetually carry on my crown, the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmanas and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all the reactions which arise from sinful life, and actually he develops all good and desirable qualities. Whoever acquires the Brahminical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful, and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows, and with me. The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing the king speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitraloka, the Brahmanas, and the saintly persons present at the meeting congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the action of a putra or son was fulfilled. For the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son Maharaja Prthu. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, entered into the darkest region of hellish life. But by the grace of his great son, Prahlada Maharaja, he also was delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. All the saintly Brahmanas thus addressed Maharaja Prthu. O best of the warriors, O father of this globe, may you be blessed with a long life, for you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universe. Dear King Prthu, your reputation is the purest of all, for you are preaching the glories of the most glorified of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the Brahmanas. Since, due to our great fortune, we have you as our master, we think that we are living directly under the agency of the Lord, our dear Lord, Our dear king, it is your occupational duty to rule over your citizens. That is not a very wonderful task for a personality like you, who are so affectionate in seeing to the interests of the citizens, because you are so full of mercy. That is the greatness of your character. Today you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. By our past deeds and by the arrangement of superior authority, we are entangled in a network of fruitive activities and have lost sight of the destination of life. Thus we have been wandering within the universe. Dear King, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by inducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. Thus ends this chapter. So it struck me as something interesting here that we find over and over again, and I'm kind of surprised I've not mentioned it before. Have you noticed how all these people are worshiping the Lord, but in return, the Lord worships them? It is a two-way street. I think immediately of Christianity, where we have the story of Jesus cleaning the feet of someone and honoring people who others in society would not honor. He sort of worshipped them. But we don't really see that much anymore in Christianity. I never hear anyone talking about how Jesus is honoring them and worshiping them. But here we have it. Here we actually clearly are seeing that God is worshiping the king. He is honoring the king. It is a two-way street. And I think there's something here that has been lost in time. It's been lost in Sanatana Dharma, it's been lost in Christianity, it may be lost in other religions, that is a reciprocal relationship. It is not a master-servant relationship, which is often how we paint God and ourselves. Unless we have huge egos and then we put ourselves equal or above to God, and we say, I am God and all this stuff, and we try to, whatever, that's for another ramble. Even though God is bigger than us, we forget it's still reciprocity. God is still honoring us and we are honoring them. The master is the servant is the master. My guru Sri Acharyaji wrote in one of his books that as a guru, which he calls himself, he is our servant. I am his servant. He is my teacher. I honor him amazingly so. But also he honors me, and he is my servant. It is a two-way street. For without him, I have no guru. Without me, he is not a guru. He has no student. But yet, I don't see this. Outside of my teacher, I don't see this. I don't see this at all. I don't see this in the way we relate to ministers and priests, leaders, teachers, writers, whoever. We put all these folks up on a pedestal. And the thing is, they like being there, because it's a good place for one's ego. There's no discussion of ego here in any great form. People have egos in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but at the end of the day, it always comes down to honoring God, not honoring yourself, not honoring your ego. Or I should say, King Vena honored his ego. And look what that got him. Anyways, just kind of noticed that. This thing of reciprocity here. So, if you have a relationship with God, do you ever think about this? That God may honor you, or worship you, or respect you? Is it a two-way street? What is your relationship to God? What is your relationship to your guru, if you have one? Would be interested in knowing, discussing this more down below. And we'll just say, well, that's a good place to stop for now. It looks like my cat is still here. And until next time, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.